Several years after Superstorm Sandy devastated our region, FiOS News is taking an in-depth look on recommendations made by a federal agency to prevent coastal and storm surge flooding. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has released a report detailing recommendations. It comes ahead of public meetings taking place throughout our area to get your input on the plans starting next week. So just how vulnerable are we to major floods after Superstorm Sandy, and how strong is our coastal resilience? Here's Ray Romande with a special investigation.
The future of America's most storied and famous harbor and the gleaming coastal cities which align it lie within the wading and rising waters of the Hudson River. And now the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is once again shining a spotlight on just how vulnerable the coastal regions of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut are to catastrophic flooding.
Billions of people at risk, billions of dollars of infrastructure at risk, and the problems can only get worse.
Distinguished Professor Malcolm J. Bauman of Stony Brook University has more than 4 decades of study and research on coastal front and storm surges. 7 years before Superstorm Sandy wreaked havoc along our region's coastal communities, causing 60 deaths and some $19 billion in damages, Bauman penned this New York Times op-ed titled "City at Sea," predicting the New York, New Jersey harbor would face consequential storm surges. The op-ed written in the days following Hurricane Katrina.
This is an enormous problem. We're talking about the destiny of New York City, northern New Jersey, and the outer boroughs, Brooklyn and Queens.
It's hard to believe it's been 7 years since Hurricane Sandy put Battery Park City, where we're standing, completely underwater. That storm surge coming over that railing you see right here behind me, reaching levels as high as 13 feet. The Atlantic seawater rushing into New York Harbor, flooding 2 subway stations and shutting down tunnels and thoroughfares in lower Manhattan for days. Since Superstorm Sandy, Bauman has consulted with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers about how to protect the New York, New Jersey harbor from future disaster due to powerful Atlantic storms. And he's a major proponent for building storm surge barriers, as you see here in this animation created by CH2 Mill, which is now Jacobs' engineering firm.
We need bold new ideas, and we need to study storm surge barriers as one of the possible solutions.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers echoes its support for storm surge barriers as well. In its 130-page interim report released at the end of February, the Army Corps addressed several topics, including the ongoing debate to protect waterways from both storm surge and sea level rising, environmental and navigation impacts, cost and construction, and coastal storm risk management.
The study itself, the entire process, is fatally flawed.
John Lipscomb, Vice President of Advocacy for Riverkeeper New York, says the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' recommendation to install storm surge barriers doesn't solve the problem.
It's not rational to do a study and potentially build structures that protect against storms, but do not protect against sea level rise.
Lipscomb also says storm barriers would suffocate marine life up and down the Hudson River, creating an environmental nightmare, especially for marine life.
The analogy I use is it's putting a noose around a river's neck, or it's putting a bag over its head. It's restricting the river's ability to respirate and connect to the ocean.
There's no question both sides of this debate say there is an engineering solution to address both storm surge and rising sea levels in the North Atlantic region, and advocates and proponents of the Army Corps' plan are hoping these are addressed during public meetings scheduled over the next couple of months.
Meteorologists and climate scientists all over the world are telling us that the glaciers are melting, sea level is going to rise and increase. So this problem is not going to go away.
They have to find a way to protect our cities, our real estate, our infrastructure without harming the river and the harbor.
After the Army Corps of Engineers receives public input, it will release a draft report about the best way to protect the New York and New Jersey coastline. The report is expected to be complete by January of 2020. On the Hudson River, Ray Romande, FiOS 1 News.